Scott from the Insomnia Cafe Music Show. This is where this is going to be hosted. I am with author Chase Will, um, and we're going to talk about books and Gross Fest and other things we've been working on. So take it away.
Hey, I'm Chase Will, guys. I'm the author of the book Where Dreams Are Entombed. This is a book that's kind of extreme, kind of gross at times. It's about a guy named Tommy trying to make a living in Los Angeles when he finds an artist gallery that kind of has some nefarious means of getting his best work out of them. I've had a lot of readers say that it's kind of visceral, kind of disturbing at times, a little bit fucked up. I can say that on the show, right?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. Exactly.
There's no rating for this at all. So if you need to describe things the way that they are, go ahead.
So far, the book's gotten a lot of positive reviews on Amazon. Oh, there it is on Amazon and Goodreads. You can find it at my website, chasewill.bigcartel.com, or on Amazon. Or you can follow me on Patreon at patreon.com/ChaseWillAuthor. And there's always some freebies on there, including a monthly short story set in the Dreams Are Entombed universe. Then there's the sequel. I think you've read this one, have you?
I've read that one on Kindle.
Sweet.
I was impressed by that one. I really
Thank
was.
you. Yeah, this one's got kind of a more supernatural edge to it at times. It's got a lot of artsy stuff in it. It's similar in the scope of things. It's about a girl named Ember, and she's trying to become an artist, and she goes to an underground art competition. And after she gets rejected, she starts kind of see how to find ways to make a living and how to kind of come into her own as an artist while battling people who have some other nefarious means of bringing out her best work. So it's a lot about desperation, these books. They're a lot about, I guess, coming to terms with what it means to be an artist. They're kind of personal books to me, too, because I've had a lot of means of desperation in my life, whether it's hating a job that I have, I'm not going to say which one.
Right. I gotcha.
Or other means of trying to kind of make a living as an artist, which is really hard to do because you kind of have to sell out at times. That's kind of just the way of things. I mean, what having a Patreon page where you're selling bits of yourself at a time, or having an OnlyFans page. I don't know. I didn't do that, but some people do.
Right.
But that's really about the books as an intro. The prequel just came out. I don't have a copy here with me, but it's called Where Dreams Are Entombed Creator. It's set before Where Dreams Are Entombed, and it's about the main villain and how she became the way she is.
I think I have a copy of that floating around. The books you invest your personal views and as a reader, I got sucked into this. And you know what my reaction was for the second book.
Yeah, you liked it.
There was also another reaction of why. And we'll get into kind of without spoiling things, or try to not spoil things. It's a book that once you get through the first one and get into the second one, you know you're invested in this. Your time, your energy, your emotional attachment to these characters. And yes, they are gross. They are, at times I'm thinking, how did you come up with this? This and just reading your words was amazing in terms of how you can walk a person through these situations, kind of come out on the other side as not whole, but as you're still that person, I guess, to a degree. Go through all of this, and it's just amazing. I'm sorry, I liked it a lot. I don't read a lot of horror. I'm not a horror person, like a lot of friends of mine or whatever. But once you read something like this, and you go back and you read certain parts, there are certain parts that I've kind of missed, and I kind of went back over, and I'm just like, wow. Then when you read about a certain character in the first book, and now they have a storyline of their own. And you know who I'm referring to, I hope.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, now I'm worried about that person. And you realize it's in a universe that you don't have any, physical attachment to, but you have an emotional attachment to it.
Oh yeah. Well, that's always the goal. I mean, I always want readers to feel like they actually know these characters and that they care about them. Because if you don't care about the characters, you're probably not going to care about the story. So I always try to give my characters three-dimensional attributes where you know who they are as a person and you kind of relate to them in a way. I think that's why the first book works so well, is because you can relate to the feelings of desperation in somebody. Like, some people know what it's like to be a father, try and provide for your kids. Some people have had crappy jobs that they absolutely loathe, but they're trying to make ends meet while they pursue bigger things. I mean, I think it's pretty universal. I think we all get in those situations where we want to be something more than we are at the time.
Yeah. We'll stick with Tommy for a second. You had Tommy basically doing not exactly what he wanted to do, and then situations came up, and then the artist gallery came up, and all the things that went attached to that particular storyline of the car, the people, going to the gallery, things like that. It encompasses that story. And
Oh yeah.
so reading all the details about that versus, oh, he's just going to go to the gallery, he's going to do this, and then all hell breaks loose after that. But there's a lot more details and a lot more incidents that happened during that period of time.
Yeah. Well,
So
since that happened, the goal for each one is to kind of, because I think when you see how a character reacts to adversity, that gets you more invested in them as a person. So, like when something bad happens to Tommy in the first book, such as in one scene, his car gets totaled, the way he reacts kind of tells you who he is as a person and kind of informs you to where he's going as far as the story. Because I think where he ends up at the end was kind of earned as far as the story goes. Because endings are hard, you really have to earn the ending. And
right.
I feel like following him throughout the story, it really does earn the ending that he gets.
Well, it was an awesome ending, and then the second book happens, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I kind of see in what you did is you took Tommy's story and basically finished it,
yeah,
and then you go on from there to the next story.
yeah. Well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I like to think of it as this way: is that everybody's story has to end at some point, and with the artist gallery being who they are as a collective, where they kind of target people, bring them into the gallery, and kind of manipulate them into giving their best work through either threats, through manipulation, in a bunch of different ways. Tommy's ending was always going to be the way it ended. I didn't really see much. I didn't see much potential as using him as the main character in book two because his story, the exciting parts of it at least of his life, were kind of wrapped up in part one. So I really wanted to start part two off with a bang, where things happen.
Oh my goodness. There was a part in second one where they're at a coffee shop or something, and there's actually a TV news thing about the incident.
Yeah.
I thought that was cool. I thought
Well,
that was
thank
really
you. Yeah, I like the little touches in the story where you're kind of drawn into the real world, and it's not really coincidental, but there's some dark humor in part two. I don't know if you caught that or not, but I was trying to make it kind of black funny at times.
cool. Mm-hmm.
The incident report on Tommy, what happened with him, and his wrap up in the story. Then there's some other moments where characters say certain things that are kind of self-referential. I mean, like, I think I think both books are kind of self-referential in some aspects because they are about being an artist, which is what I'm trying to do.
Right.
So, like, looking into a mirror at times and saying, like, I'm invested in this character as the author. I know who this character is. Now I gotta bring him to life and make him believable to other people.
Yeah, you did it good. love Tommy. I mean,
Thank you.
and I forget. I'm sorry. What you had her do in the second book
Mhm.
was just outrageous. It was funny. It was great. Listening to, the people that are trying to get in touch with her, or, the voicemails and things like that was a really good touch. I really enjoyed her story.
Thank you. Yeah, Ember, the main character in part two, she's one of my favorite characters I've created. So I feel like she has this certain childish innocence to her, but at the same time, she's kind of a badass. Like in the very first time you meet her, she's trashing her ex boyfriend's dorm room because he broke up with her in a really shitty way.
Yeah.
A lot of girls can relate to that, or a lot of guys can relate to that too. Like we've all had those moments of, man, I just want to get back to this person who did me wrong, and she does it in grand fashion.
Yeah. It was wicked. It was cool. What brought you up? The main question I was going to ask you is, what brought you to starting this series?
It actually was intended to be just a one-off. Like it was going to be just one book because I wanted to put some more books out there. I had an idea for the story, and it started off with, what if somebody was turned into a human zit on stage? And it was going to be called Pop Art, like a shorter story, like maybe 10,000 words or so, which is
Right.
a quarter of what this one is. And it was going to be just about a guy who gets paid to get turned into a human zit and popped on stage, which at one point in the book is actually his nightmare. That's what that turned into. But that's where the idea kind of originally came from. Like I was really inspired by stories on godless.com and the more extreme side of things. And I thought I wanted to take a shot at it. So that's where the first book came from. And then somebody, after reading the first book, said this needs to have a sequel. Like, you've baited us for a sequel. You had a cliffhanger.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to do it.
Yeah, you have to do it because there was a cliffhanger at the end where it's like, Tommy's fine.
Yeah.
And that's not the end of the story when the second book comes out and you start reading and it's like, oh, now this is going to go on. And you're just like, and when you wrote the first book and someone said, hey, they've got you got, sorry, I have cats, but if you have a second book, it's another investment of our emotional side to keep going. And then when you get the feedback of, this is an awesome book, there was a lot more to it, when you get to the ending, you're just like, okay, is there, what's going to be the fallout of this?
Yeah.
And now and then when Creator came out, I was reading it and I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then you go, oh, that's how they meet. Because at the first book, I've got this like small thought of, how did they meet?
Yeah. You mean
when you get to that point, you just go, oh, okay.
Yeah, like I think the prequel came out of an idea that villains aren't villains their entire life. Like, no matter how evil somebody is, they weren't born that way. They were kind of made that way over time. I don't think anybody is born evil. I don't think anybody has nefarious means from the time they're a kid to the time they grow up, unless you're a total sociopath. I don't know.
Right.
But I wanted to actually show her as kind of an innocent person who had these twisted ideas of what it means to make art. And the book starts off with her trying to turn somebody into an artist, somebody she sees potential in. And the way she does it is very manipulative and very mean-spirited, but it's a means to an end. Like, she actually wants the best for this person. So in her mind, it's not evil. In her mind, she's doing the right thing for somebody,
right,
actually doing them a service, which I think is how a lot of evil people actually see their actions.
mm-hmm.
Is, there's a means to an end.
Right.
Like, well, I don't want to say anybody, but I don't think most people do stuff just out of evil thoughts. I think there's always, this is for the greater good, even if the greater good is for me.
Mm-hmm. Right.
A little psychology there for you. I did not major in that in college, so I stand by nothing I say.
But there's a lot of stuff in the books that are more psychological because you see the person's story, you see their thought patterns, you see what they've done or what's being done to them, and you take that as, this is what's going on, versus, this what goes on, this is the end result. You don't see the thought patterns, or you don't see the reactions or the results, anything like that towards that person, from the creator. You get to that point where she has stuff done to her, and then you look at it from the other person's viewpoint, and she's like, oh, I got it now. Now I can go and do this.
Yeah, the creator is a lot about coming to terms with who you are and accepting fate, I guess. I think fate has a lot to do with creator as a whole. Have you read the whole book yet?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, as you can kind of tell, like near the end where things are kind of coming together for her, it's kind of fated because she's meant to be where she is in book 1. Because like where she starts off in book 1 and where she ends in book 2, or where she ends in the prequel, are kind of connected. Because I feel like by the ending of the prequel, you can go into book 1 with fresh eyes and kind of reread it with a different perspective.
Yeah, I didn't know that when she's in the cornfield.
Yeah.
And she's hearing Tommy. That freaked me out because I didn't realize she knew Tommy.
Well, she doesn't like know him. She thinks she knows him because he's like her idol. So in her end, like, how we are as fans in real life, like if you're a big fan of somebody, you think you know them, but you probably don't. Like you probably have an idea of them that you fell in love with. And that's how it is for the creator, Anya, in the prequel book, is she thinks she really understands Tommy so much that he's in her head. He is her guiding force. Like everything she does for Tommy. Even if he has no idea who the hell she is, like she would put her life on the line for this idea of a person. Which again, that's more of a psychological thing. I think everybody does it at some point because we all have people we put on pedestals that we think we know really, really well, who can pick us out on the street.
Right, exactly.
Like we have rock stars, we have politicians, we have actors, all these people that we admire, people who don't care about us, people who probably wouldn't step over a puddle to save us. But we love these people because of their art. And that's how it is for Anya in the prequel, is she's in love with Tommy in a very platonic way. Like she doesn't have sexual feelings for him per se, but she wants him to be a part of her.
Yeah, when I got to the end of the book and he was talking about, is he talking about a location?
Yeah, she was trying to figure out where she wants to go from here because Cleveland is kind of burnt out in her mind.
Right. And then she thinks of Tommy, and I was like, oh, this is where this goes. And then, like you said, you could read basically the first book and get a new perspective of, his story. I didn't know that was going to go that way until you get to the last few pages and you go, oh no.
Yeah, because what better place than the city of angels to find desperate people? Like, I don't know. Have you ever been to Los Angeles?
I have not. I haven't been.
Go ahead. Sorry.
The biggest city I've been to is Seattle. I used to live in Washington State. I live in Pennsylvania now, but been to California once or twice. Go ahead.
It's filled to the brim with desperate people. Like everybody there is there chasing a dream that's very elusive. So there's a lot of artisan development there. So that's kind of why in the first book, the artist gallery is set in Los Angeles, because it's like the prime location for finding targets. Like everybody wants a chance at their art. And that's what the artist gallery kind of provides, is it asks you, how bad do you want this? Like, what will you do to get fame, to get recognition, to actually create your masterpiece? Like, what will you sacrifice for that? And I think a lot of us in our minds, we imagine ourselves going 100% all the time. We're always going to create. We're going to give our best effort. We're going to make our masterpiece. But I think very rarely does anybody really do that because it takes a lot of work for one, and you have to actually make sacrifices. Like in my experience as a writer, a lot of sacrifices I make are time, like time where I could be out with my friends, I could be with family, I could be playing PlayStation, but I have to write. And that's a sacrifice in one way. And I think if you're trying to be an artist, you have to sacrifice pretty constantly for your art because art is, in a way, pain. Art is sacrifice. And the artist gallery asks you, what will you sacrifice to get what you want?
It's like, how desperate are you?
Yeah, which is kind of the tagline for the book on the back.
That's kind of that's why I said it's like, how desperate are you to get your story written? You know,
Yeah,
your art, your, your full soul into this venture of, this is what you're going to do.
I mean, like each book I make, like especially with this one, when I started it out, I had just gone through kind of like a rough patch with a girl who I was talking to for a minute. And, I became desperate in my mind because I was like, man, is shit ever going to work out for me? And as sad and pathetic as that was, it kind of informed the story. I mean, it kind of made me get into the character of Tommy, who wants something so badly he can almost taste it. Somebody who's always just outside of where he wants to be, but not quite there yet. And the world is kind of against him in a way. Because in chapter 1, he's working at a hotel, which is like a pretty good job for him. But the people he deals with every day, they are just people. And we've all had jobs like that.
Yeah. What was crazy is you go from the hotel to, I forget what he was doing. And then basically all of that kind of goes away.
Yeah. Like after he gets the chance at the artist gallery, he's like all in because he sees money. He sees, if I get enough money, I can make this work. If I get enough money, I can afford a new guitar. If I get enough money, I can promote myself more. And the artist gallery is offering him tons of money to sacrifice, his dignity, his sexuality, to sacrifice every aspect of himself in the pursuit of money. So I guess the first book is kind of a statement on capitalism, where everything is about cash. Like cash is king. You will do anything for money because everyone needs money. And if that means sacrificing your dream or pursuing your dream to the extreme, eventually that's what it comes down to is I want more money, which is why people chase fame, which is why people chase recognition, which is why the influencers online, because they want more money.
Mm-hmm. So talking about the story and talking about each character, how gross can you get?
Oh, I can get pretty gross.
There's some spots in there where I'm just like, holy mackerel.
Oh yeah, probably about the halfway point is probably the first one. Well, maybe like a quarter of the book.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the scene that made people kind of squirm in their seats. I think it was probably the zit popping scene. That's
yes.
the thing.
That one, and then yeah, I think that was the grossest thing.
Yeah, well, my editor, James G. Carlson of Bloomhouse Press, he helped me kind of punch that scene up and make it as gross as it could be. Because, for one, people like gross. I mean, some people are turned off by it, but I'm not one of them. And when I write the first draft, I'm always kind of writing it for myself so I get as gross as I want to be. And then if I have to tone it down in the second draft, I do. But I can be pretty gross. I mean, I don't know if you ever read my book Birthday Girl, but it's pretty fucked up and gross.
I haven't read it yet.
It's by my pseudonym Ash Crowlin, so it's kind of hard to find because it got banned on Amazon because somebody said it was too gross, which is kind of a badge of honor for me. Like to get banned on Amazon is pretty awesome.
Well, you mentioned that when we met at Gross Fest last year, and you talked to me about some of the other books that you had, and then you mentioned Birthday Girl banned on Amazon. I was like, that would seem to be a little hard to get done.
Yeah.
But if you have someone who says, that was kind of gross or really gross, then, you have to deal with that. Have you had to deal with anything Fallout-wise from these books or from any other books that you've written or Well,
Well, it's kind of funny. Like, we talk about pretending you know people that you don't really know. Well, there was this girl I was talking to for a minute because everything always comes back to my dating life.
right.
Oh, like she found out that I'm a horror author. She's never read my stuff. She has no idea what I write. She just knows that it's horror. And she goes, "You must be a fucked up person to write that kind of stuff." And that was the end of that. And I was like, wow,
Wow.
I'm down because of what I do creatively. Has nothing to do with me as a person, but all about, people's opinions on my art form. So like that was a little bit of fallout, I guess. Plus, my main job right now, they're trying to convince me to use a pseudonym. So that way it's kind of a separation between my professional life and my writing life, which I'm never going to do. I mean, they can eat shit. I'm not going to do that.
I think it would take away from you. I mean,
Yeah.
if I go to, let's say, Barnes and Noble or whatever, or go online and I find a book, let's say in 6 months, we haven't talked or I haven't, dealt with anything like that. And I see a book out from you, then I know it's you. If it's
Yeah.
someone else, then I would feel that knowing that it was you, you had to sacrifice something.
Yeah. It's kind of like your own name, like giving up everything that makes you you.
Yeah, and there's some authors out there that you don't realize that it's another person or whatever what have you, but you enjoy their books. I don't want to have to do that in terms of unless an author that writes, let's say, what is it, young audience or whatever it is.
Yeah.
You write a series of kids books, then I would say you might want to change it up a little bit, but
Well,
you're well
like,
for these types of books.
Yeah.
So that let's say if I are watching you or whatever, and or what to a degree or whatever, I know that there's a book out by you. I don't have to message you or go, hey, or get a message that says, hey, I just wrote this really cool book and it's by this person. Well, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You don't want to hide yourself from being the person that you are.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. My next series is kind of, I would call it Christian fiction because it has a lot to do with faith. Because I recently, well, not recently, but over the years, came to be a more faithful person in that regard. Like religion was never a big part of my life.
Right.
Found it over time. And there's this 3-book series that I wrote back when I was in high school, all about faith and growing up and trying to come to terms with how wicked the world can be while still persevering and believing. And these are horror books. Like they're going to be like YA horror for young adults,
Okay.
but they kind of lean heavily into the faith aspect. So I was considering using a pseudonym for that, but I'm probably going to use my own name just because I feel like if I can stand behind the books, I can say, this is what I created, this is what I believe in, then there's really no need to use a pseudonym because it kind of shows a bit of cowardice if you do. It's kind of like saying, oh, this isn't a part of me, just disregard this. This is somebody else. This is a different name. But if you put your own name on it, it's kind of a show of confidence in it.
Yeah, if you change your name, you basically are just bailing on it.
Yeah, it's kind of like disregarding it, saying like, yeah, I'm ashamed of this. Which, when I wrote Birthday Girl, I did use a pseudonym because I didn't want my parents to find out about it, and they did it.
Well, of course they're gonna find out.
Yeah, so there's really no need to have a pseudonym, but I kind of learned over time.
Did they read it or do they know about it?
Some of my family has read it. My dad read it and liked it. He said it was really fucked up. He said, I'm kind of surprised you wrote this. I can't really say I'm proud of you, but you did a really good job. No, I'm kidding. He was totally proud of me. Like, my dad's my biggest supporter.
Of course.
Read it. My mom hasn't read it, and my grandparents certainly haven't read it because I told them not to.
Don't think you want them to read anything.
No.
Geared towards that.
But yeah, like my family is my biggest supporters. Like my family unit, like my parents, my siblings, my cousins, they're all very supportive of what I do, even if they don't agree with it. Like even if they're never going to read it, they're very, very supportive. And that's what I always kind of fall back on when I have like imposter syndrome or my own self-doubts or those days where I get nothing done because I'm so stressed. Like I always can fall back on family, and that's what's most important to me. I guess it's my main strength as a writer is having that support group.
And that's what you need is you can't write by yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, you come up with the ideas and the words, but you'll have those days where it's like writer's block, or you have an idea and it's not working right, and you need to blow off steam. You've got people around you that you can do that with.
Yeah, that's really important. I feel like if you're alone naturally and you don't have people around you sometimes, like if you have no social aspect to your life, that can really drive you nuts. I mean, it can make you crazy if you don't have any kind of support system, if you don't have any friends, if you don't go out every now and then and kind of experience the world, it'll kill you creatively. Like you won't be able to create anything because you don't have anything to draw on. You don't have any kind of support. You don't have anybody telling you to keep going. And there are writers in the past, like Charles Bukowski, like when he was writing, he didn't have anybody, but it kind of strengthened him, I think, because he was very nihilistic anyway. So I guess that kind of fed into his writing. Plus, he had like a really terrible upbringing, so he didn't have close family or anything. So I guess that's my view on being social or like having a support group is it does help you creatively, even if your social group doesn't understand what you do or why you do it.
I'm sure that when people ask you what you do for a living, you say you're a writer, they're like, oh, well, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. Well, usually, who's your publisher? And I'm like, well, it's mostly self-published. And they're like, oh, sorry. I'm like, what the fuck, man? It's like, I'm indie. Like, that's like the most punk rock thing you can do as an artist is be indie.
Exactly. How do you get your books out?
Usually through Amazon or person-to-person sales. I'm trying to expand distribution over the next year, so it's available on like Kobo and I don't know if it's Kobo or Kubo. It's one of those sites. And Barnes and Noble. I'm trying to get into their stores and other smaller bookstores around the area. I'm trying to get into. So the goal is over the next year or so, you can get my books anywhere. But right now, it's just on Amazon or at chasewill.bigcartel.com. Or on my Patreon. Occasionally you get free books on there.
That's cool. So you've talked to like independent bookstores near your area?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Actually gotten stolen, like which I think is kind of cool.
What's that? Like,
some of my books have actually gotten stolen at a bookstore, what? Which I think is kind of cool because it's like somebody wanted this book bad enough that they stole it. Like,
oh my goodness.
That feels good.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I don't want to say punk rock, but it's like, you know, that's cool though. That's cool.
Like, I want to write a book just called Steal This Book, kind of like System of a Down had Steal This Album.
It sounds familiar.
Oh, it was one of their best albums, in my opinion. I really liked it a lot. Like, they were big influences on when I grew up, when growing up. I totally fumbled that sentence.
No, it's okay. It happens.
But yeah, I would have a book just called Steal This Book, and hopefully everyone would just go to a bookstore and just steal a copy.
That would be wicked. That would be interesting.
Yeah. And it would kill my career. But
yeah, it would definitely. Unless you put something in the back, it's like, if you've taken this book, you know, just reach out to me and tell me what you think.
Yeah.
And then you can.
Two of my books, actually, they were on a pirating website, and piracy is stealing, and people downloaded them like thousands of times. So apparently I have thousands of people reading my books somewhere. I mean, I don't know them. I don't know where they're at, but some thousands of people have downloaded Birthday Girl.
So somebody copied Birthday Girl and put it up digitally.
Yeah.
Wow.
Mine, what's pirated, and I just every now and then I do searches to figure out are my books being stolen. And Birthday Girl, I got like a bunch of hits. Like it's on like Pirate Bay or whatever it is now. I don't know if there's.
Oh my God. That's cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, somebody out there was a big enough fan that they wanted to share my book. I mean, I can't agree with how they did it, but they're
Right.
getting out there.
So there's going to be a fourth book in the series.
Oh yeah, that comes out June 20th, first day of summer. It's called Where Dreams Are Entombed Grand Finale, and it's the last book in this cycle. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to do a second cycle of Where Dreams Are Entombed books because I don't really have any plans for it right now. But I may return to this universe eventually. Right now, I'm just focusing on book 4, or yeah, the fourth book, and some
Right.
shorter stories.
Yeah, so it's something to look forward to.
Yeah, start the summer off with a bang.
Absolutely. You have anything else in the pipeline, or
I'm working on another short story collection. Doesn't have a title yet, but that might be out later this year. And then I'm working on my Patreon stuff. So I'm trying to do a short story every month for my patrons. So that's kind of going to be taking a lot of energy from me, but it helps you grow as a writer to have those kind of challenges.
right?
I also have I have a monthly newsletter on Substack. It's just Substack/Chase Will Author. Every month you get a serialized short story set in the Where Dreams Are Entombed universe. So if you want more content that's in that same world, that's where you can go to get that.
Interesting. What was I going to ask? I was going to ask you something. Oh, well. How was Gross Fest for you?
I loved Gross Fest. That was one of my best conventions. Like I made like ton of friends there. And I also got like a bunch of Marilyn Manson albums there because somebody was just selling albums, and I was like, "Hey, vinyl, that's my thing. I gotta buy a bunch."
Oh, where was he? There was a table in the corner by the door. He was doing VHSs, I think.
Yeah, and that's
Was
my
that
jam. I love old media like that. VHSs, CDs, vinyl. Like I collect that stuff. It's stuff I'm never actually going to like sit down and enjoy unless I have like a working VHS player. But I still collect it because I like physical media, especially old school physical media.
right? Yeah, we have a radio station. No, go ahead.
I just want to say a big shout out to Tim and Tom Gross, the Gross brothers, for putting that together because it was a really fun convention. Like you could tell they love what they do. They really push people's work, and it was big enough yet small enough at the same time that you get to actually interact with people, and you don't have to worry about like one person's at your table and you're trying to get somebody else, and you're trying to get somebody else there, and people are crowded. Like it was small enough that I got to actually spend quality time with readers and actually get to know them as people. Like when I met you, I remember meeting you. Like you came to my table and you said you weren't really much of a horror reader. And I was like, this guy's not going to like my stuff.
And then Tommy.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
I think I told a story to you and you said, I'll give this one a chance. And I was like, I hope he likes it.
And I did. I'm kind of going to go into kind of a really strange vein of I am a Christian and I have read like the Bible, and I've also done the Left Behind series and all this other stuff, but I still like other things.
Mhm.
Horror is not one of those taboo things where you go, since you're this, that you stay away from kind of those kind of things. And I've read pretty much every type of science fiction, fantasy, romance, horror, silly stuff, growing up.
Yeah.
So, and as a reader, you kind of want to look at everything and make it, once you get past that, you can make your judgment of, oh, I'm never going to read that type again. Or, I've always looked for this type of an author, or, things like that. So reading yours, it was an easy read. It wasn't let's club him over the head with, blood, guts, gore, violence, and not have a story.
Yeah.
Yeah. So at the end of the first book, you are totally invested.
Well, that's good. That's what I wanted. Yeah, story always comes first. Like characterization is great, but you have to have a good story to go with it. And if the story is interesting, no matter how much violence you have, no matter how much horror stuff you have in there, if a story doesn't keep the readers engaged, they're just going to bail out and stop at halfway through. So I'm really happy to hear you had a good experience with it. I'm really glad you liked the story.
Yeah. Have you seen or heard about the Left Behind series?
Oh, I've read those in high school. Yeah, I loved them.
I threw one of them.
Which one?
It's towards the end when they kill off. God, I can't remember who they killed off, but I was like, holy crap. And I threw the damn book. I was so upset.
For me,
then,
it was the last one.
Yeah, the last one, you have they figure out who's going where. And I'm just like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah, like the last book, it was kind of building all up to it. And the 12th book, Glorious Appearing, I think it was called.
Yeah.
Where, heaven comes down. You get to see God and Jesus in person. The devil is there. Is this big epic battle. Like that's the one, to me, was the weakest book. I mean, it had all this cool stuff going on, but story-wise, it was just not quite as good as the previous 11 books.
I kind of felt like once they got past the beginning and then they got to where everybody was like on the same page and it went further on, then you get to the point where, oh, okay, this has happened. Like at the UN building, when Buck is introduced to, or finally figures out who's what.
Yeah.
Then you realize that this is going to be a really good series once you get past that few beats of the build up.
Yeah.
And where your book is, and I don't want to attach it to the series, but you built up Tommy and you built up the story to the point where it's like when you get towards the end, you're like, oh, this is an amazing story because it's in a story.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah,
so,
what I like about those books, like the whole series, is that they're accessible to everybody. Like it's not just for Christians. It's like a book anybody can pick up and really enjoy because the characters are so well developed over time. The story is very engaging. It's a scary premise. And I think it kind of crosses a lot of bridges for people because if you were to market a book and say this book is just for this minority of people, you're not going to get a lot of good readers. Like people are going to say, this isn't for me. I'm not even going to give a chance. But Left Behind has such an interesting premise and great characters that you want to keep going. It makes it really worth the 12-book investment.
Yeah, I have some of them. I don't know where they are at the moment. I think they're at my dad's house. But I've read the whole series. They actually did a dramatization, an audio one, which is really? Actually, yeah, it's really good because you have all the sound effects, and you have all the emotions and stuff behind it, so you can hear the actual characters and stuff like that. So it was actually a really cool thing to listen to for a while.
I know they did like 4 movies, but the movies weren't very good. They were just too short and didn't have the right people playing the characters. I think they had.
No, that was the main downfall for that movie franchise. Yeah. You kept putting the wrong people in.
Plus, they tried to condense 12 books into 4 movies, and like that never works.
I don't think. Trying to think, but I don't think one of them is attached to. I think they're different movies.
Yeah.
So they're like in the same universe, but they're not exactly the same from the book.
Oh yeah. They did one with Nicolas Cage, didn't they? A Left Behind movie.
Yeah, that was the last one.
Yeah, that was so bad.
Yeah, and there's the Kirk Cameron ones, which I don't think I've seen. But other than that, I mean, it is what it is. I like the book. I love the series. It's just that when I got to a particular spot and I was like, okay, whatever. And then I was like, went across the room, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm done reading for a while.
Yeah.
But it had some interesting, philosophies. It had some symbolism, or, things that you would think of, towards that type of a book. And I'm like, this is really cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed them. Like, that was probably one of my favorite series growing up because, like, I wasn't a big Bible banger. Like, it was never really my thing. but the series made it all interesting to me. Like it was an exciting read.
Yeah, because you got invested in the characters.
Mhm.
So, it is what it is. It was fun. Let's see what else. Can't think of too much else. So, are you going to be doing a merch line at all, or are you going to be doing anything else?
I'm actually trying to launch a merchandise line on teespring.com where you can buy t-shirts that are themed for my books. That's in development right now, but I'll keep people posted. And then on Patreon, if you're a member of the, I think $25 a month or more, then you get a free t-shirt after 3 months. That's just for you. So it's like a one-of-a-kind deal. So that's kind of what I have merch-wise right now. Right now, most of my give outs are bookmarks and stickers because that's all I can really afford because
Right.
what was the cost associated with it.
Mm-hmm.
With print on demand t-shirts, I don't have to invest any money in that. So that's something I would recommend anybody who is in the arts checks out is Teespring because you can actually have people just order your shirts directly from the site.
Oh, that's cool.
I do have some t-shirts for Where Dreams Are Entombed still. I think I had like one line of them, then I stopped ordering them because nobody wanted them because I was unknown.
Mm. Well, I'm hoping that through this and other means that you'll get your shirts, sold. I would love one, but
Yeah. Are you gonna be at Gross Fest this year?
I don't know. I'm not.
Okay.
Is it in August?
I believe it's August or September. I can't remember offhand which one.
More than likely, I'll have to drag her out. Her and her friend who had a table there. They didn't make much from the show itself, so she said that they weren't going to go back. But if I can drag her out there, then yeah, definitely.
What was your friend?
And they had a table next to you, or remember the two girls that were sitting in front of a big table, and they had
Oh
like
yeah, yeah.
rings and stuff like that. Yeah, that was them.
Oh, that's cool.
She said that they didn't do very well there, but if I can, I'll drag one of them out so that we can go out there. Um, I noticed that the list came out for next year or for this year, and the director of Carahel,
Yeah, Carousel.
yeah, he's going to be back.
Well, that's cool. He seemed like a really nice guy.
He was fun. He was fun to watch or to talk to. When I left you, I went around the corner and trying to think if I talked to someone on that back row. And I don't think I did.
Mhm.
But I started talking to him because he had DVDs out of like a lot of his movies. And he was talking about the last one. So can't remember, but I think it's Curtains for Christmas or something like that. And so we started talking about all of his movies, and I thought he was just generally a really nice, fun guy.
Yeah.
And I've kind of looked into him when I got out of the show, and there's a lot of stuff out there. I'm not going to try and reiterate this, but horror movies to me are just for certain people.
Yeah.
I have.
I think that's what's so important about conventions and meeting people is, a lot of these people are meeting you for the very first time, and they're going to base their entire assessment of your art around, how you act as a person. Like if you're very distant and very drawn in and you don't like to communicate with people, people might think that they don't want to check out your work at all, no matter how good it might be. So at conventions, I always try my best to make every interaction memorable, or
Definitely.
at least be like an outgoing, friendly person. Like no matter what mood I'm in, like I could be having like a totally shit day, but I try to make every interaction with everybody there positive and give them, a good feeling for the rest of the day. Because everybody likes a good interaction. And I like to help somebody's day out.
Yeah, definitely. I go through that a lot at work. I talked to him, and then I talked to the guy that was sitting next to the lady that had the stuffed animals or whatever, the creature, whatever it was, because Angie and her friend went over and found it and wanted to play with it or something like that, which was funny. But the guy next to her had done a mockumentary about an ape that escaped from the zoo.
Mhm.
And then he just basically told me about that one, and then they did a second one, and I wish I could remember what they were called, but it was funny in a sort of strange way about him, how the ape goes out and kills people and with bananas and stuff. And then across from him was a lady that was a director, and then next to her was Mischief.
Oh yeah, Mischief.
I found her very interesting because we talked for a while, and then I was like, I need to go get some money. I need a shirt. So I have her shirt.
Well, that's cool.
So
those interactions where you get to go to a convention and meet people and actually see who they are as a person. Because I think like no matter how much of yourself you put into your work, whether it's a movie or a book or what have you, there's always part of you that's, just yourself. And at conventions, you can actually be open with people and get to know them as people versus as artists. Like I can't tell you the number of conventions I go to where I see people just hanging out at the bar, just being themselves and just having a good time. And I'm like, I like this person. They're fun.
Yeah, I talked to her, and then there was a guy next to her with this movie called Hellvan or something like that, and he was just telling me about the movie and stuff like that. I was like, now you're trying to gross me out, which is fine. But yeah, now I'm grossed out. And they were showing a little bit of the movie, and I was just like, it's not for me. But art-wise, it's really cool. We've been to several Steel City cons, I think 3, and we always run into this one artist. His name is Byron, and he does like horror. He'll do sci-fi. He does paintings. He does a lot of the different paintings. He did some of the artwork for a couple of the Night of the Living Dead weekends, the ones that were up in what's that?
In Monroeville?
Yeah, no, he did. Well, before they moved everything to Monroeville, it was, I can't think of what it was called. Anyway, I've been to 1 or 2, and they were cool. But he's done the posters for it, and so so we've met him a few times. I have one of his prints somewhere. It's of Frankenstein and the Bride of Frankenstein dressed up as Sid and Nancy.
I like that.
And then if you go to byronwinton.com, I think it is, he also has a shirt, and I haven't been able to find my shirt for a while, but it's of all the horror villains in a theater, and you see them from the movie screen out, so you see them looking at you, and it's really cool. He's got a big Elvira right in front.
Gotta love Elvira.
Absolutely. We've actually met her.
Oh, really?
Steel City Con. Yeah, Steel City Con several years ago. We weren't able to go last year, but I'm hoping to go this year. I think that one's in April.
Yeah, that'd be a fun one to go to. I've never actually been to that one, but I know they have the cast of Supernatural there, and that'd be a cool people to meet.
Yeah, they do a lot of conventions around the area. They'll do one. There's a horror convention, which I think I mentioned to you, Horror Realm Con, over by South Hills Mall. It's in the Crown Plaza Hotel. We went ages ago, and we met the guy that has one of Freddy Krueger's sleeves.
That's nice.
From his sweater, signed by him. And then he found all of the pieces from Maximum Overdrive. So he's able to put the Green Jester mask back together.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, that was cool.
It was such a bad movie, but I love it.
I haven't seen it, but I've seen bits and pieces of it. So it seems kind of interesting.
It was Stephen King directing on coke.
Oh, that's the one. Yeah. I remember hearing about that. Oh, that's
You could tell
funny.
he was. You could tell he was on something the entire time.
Jeez, that's funny. They had just released a movie, and I can't remember who it was by, called Zombies versus Wrestlers.
I've heard of that one.
Yeah, so they had just released that. And then the show was actually really good. It was fun. So that was that. So
Nice.
anyway, yeah, there's been Angie and her friend. They her friend like does like rings and necklaces and pendants and things like that. So they'll go to different types of shows. They actually did one at a nursing home, I think it was, that it was haunted. And
That's
so we went and sat in this place, and there's a lot of people in there that are like ghost hunting and things like that. And there was a lot of places, or a lot of people that were just doing candles and things like that. And it was actually pretty cool.
sounds like a pretty fun time.
Yeah, I've been to a few different places with them, just to hang out. Been to a few parks, and it's just a lot of fun just to see and have watch people walk by and things like that. So I mean, it's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool. Other than that, I don't know if I have anything else for you except for Tommy.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you like this character a lot. That's pretty sweet. I mean, it always makes me happy knowing that somebody enjoys what I put out there. So, thank you, man. I really appreciate you giving the book a chance.
Yeah, I don't. Having looked at from when me and you did this, is like I don't want to be overburdened to you of like, oh yeah, by the way, I saw this or I saw this, but I think that having this time together would be a benefit for you, because you could use this as proof of there's someone out there besides other fans, or these fans that I have know what this person's going to go through or what's going to go through when they read your books. When you can touch on this book and its main character, will grab you and will keep you going through the whole story versus leaving him like halfway through. Like at the car, you could have just said, okay, he's at the car's broke down, now what? Versus, as the car was driving by, you see a flash of light and you're like, oh, now I want to know what's going on. And then you realize that's who it was. And you're like,
Yeah.
now I want to know what the rest of the story is.
Yeah, you got to keep people invested the whole time. That's a pretty big part of it. I mean, I think some people see writing as just, and this is a mistake, they see writing a book as just a series of events. Like this happens, and then this happens, and then this happens. And to me, that's like the wrong way to go about it. It should be this happens, therefore this happens, but this happens. And I learned that from Trey Parker and Matt Stone of South Park. That's their writing process. That's very informative to me. Is like every event should be because of another event and should be leading to another event.
Yeah, I saw a video of someone talking about that online, and it might have been them. Because, like you said, you don't want event. You want something that causes the next one, or this is why this one is occurred because now it's this.
Yeah.
You just don't want to start dumping things on people, and you're going, wait, where's the reaction, or where's the result, or where is this going to? Now you have an explanation of where this event ends and the next one begins because of this.
Yeah.
So
I see my books like I write them as if they were movies. I want every book to feel like a 90-minute horror movie. So it should be engaging throughout, like a movie should be. It should be events happening because of another event happening. Therefore, this event happens. It should be fast paced. It should be interesting characters. Like that's the way I see writing books, especially short ones, is I want them to feel as if you're reading a movie. Like you're invested the way you would be if you were watching a movie. Like you never actually feel like you're reading a book.
Yeah, I mentioned this to someone because I've actually told people about your book. It's like,
Oh, thank you.
if you're, I know some of my customers pretty well, and this guy came in and I said, hey, I haven't seen your lady friend for a while. They work concerts and stuff, and I go, well, are you a reader? Or I had mentioned that there was a podcast that they would really like to listen to, Welcome to Night Vale, which actually was really good. And then I go, are you a reader? And he goes, well, she is. I said, you have to read this book.
Oh, thanks.
There's no ifs, ands, or buts. You have to read this book. I found them on Kindle, on the Kindle thing. And I said, these are the books you need to read. Please read
Thank
these.
you. Yeah, it'd be nice to have people to talk about it with.
Yeah, because I'll pimp it pretty much. I mean, if I like something, I will talk to you about it. Or I work at a gas station, so I have interactions with everybody that come in, and I know certain things about people where I'm like, have you listened to this, or have you watched this, or have you read this? Because I know you have that kind of interest in that. So with the books, I'm like, I just read this really cool series about these people, and I think you would really enjoy it. Or if you like certain podcasts, like I have a friend, kind of a distant friend, but he does a horror podcast. I'm like, I think you would like it. Or if you're into music, there's some bands that I really like that you might want to check out. So
That's really cool.
I usually get a few people at night with this book, or at least a couple people. So you might get some new readers. You never know.
That makes me happy, man. Thank you. I'm really
welcome.
When people recommend my books.
I don't want to be a publicist or anything like that, but I'm like, this, when I find something decent or something good, I mean, I have authors that I've read. You know who Jim Butcher is, right?
Yeah.
We've been waiting on his books forever
Mm-hmm.
and ever. And I'm like, I need something different. I need something, I'll go through like their reader list of, hey, since you like this person, go through some of these other ones. So on Kindle, which is nice, is I take the bus to work. I can read half a book before I get home. So I'll know if I like this author or not. And there's a couple stories in there that I've read. They're not really, I will never go back to.
Mm-hmm.
They're just kind of like, okay, they don't grab my attention, or they're just written weird or whatever. So it's nice to find, and I keep trying not to embellish this, but it's nice to find something that I can just read, enjoy, and then have the word Tommy engraved in my head for all time.
Well, that makes me happy, man. Thank you.
One last question, Crash.
Sure.
Crash.
Oh yeah, the son.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to give Tommy a bit of a family life because he has an estranged wife that he doesn't get along with, but their connecting point is his son, Mikey, or known as Crash, who's a very rambunctious kid. You get to know him a lot better in part 2, and I won't say why because I don't want to spoil anything, but his journey was kind of, in the first book, an inspiration for Tommy. It was his driving force. It was the reason for him to do everything he does. He's doing it all for his son. That's why Tommy wants to be famous, to make his son proud. That's why he wants more money to provide for his son. So that was kind of, his son was there to be the driving force. And in book 2, he's there for a different reason, which I think is kind of sickening in a way, but I think it serves the story. Because some people said that kind of turned them off, what happens in book 2. They said that's too cruel. I say, well, life is cruel.
Yeah, I think we talked about it earlier, is that Tommy had to have like a finish. I was not expecting that finish.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people weren't expecting that, and they were going like, why? And that's what I asked too as well. And I was like, and you gave me the answer, and I was like, okay, I can live with that.
Yeah, I had somebody write to me and said, "Dude, why did you do that? You did Tommy dirty." And I was like, "Well, it had to happen. Like, I can't have two books in a row following the same guy if his story is complete, because his story at the end of the first book is pretty much done. Like, there's nowhere else to take that character because he's been through the ringer and he persevered and he got out. But there's always people following you from the artist gallery. Like, they're very, very crafty people, and they will find you. That's kind of, I think, what makes them scary is they have resources to track you down.
When you put in, is the second one with, is the second one with her? No, that's the third one. So the third one that you introduced her dad.
Yeah, that's the third one.
Okay.
That's the prequel. So apparently, I mean, it's technically part 0, not the third one, but I keep referring to it as the third one because it's the third one that I wrote, but it's the prequel.
But when she says that there are a lot of people that are going to be coming, when she says that to her dad, you realize that there is a lot of people coming.
Yeah.
In that audience, there was a lot of people, and you're just like, there's a lot of things attached to where she's going with this.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
what's kind of like a statement on the world. Like, if you have performative art the way the creator has, no matter how sick it is, there's always an audience for it. Like, there's always people out there who are going to come and check it out. And that's kind of like a scary thing to me, is because the direction she goes in her life is pretty drastic, pretty, I would say, sick in a lot of ways, because she has kind of a twisted mind because of what she's been through in life. But it pays off for her because there's an audience for that exact art, as Avarice shows her.
Yeah. How'd you come up with Avarice?
Avarice was just based on the idea of wanting to be something else, because he's the guy who's kind of the key to everything. Like, he introduces the creator. He's kind of her herald. Like, he's the guy who says, here's your written test if we decide whether or not we want to use you. So to me, Avarice was always one of the main bad guys. Like, the creator wasn't really a bad person. She had bad morals. She had bad decisions, but she was never this evil person. Whereas Avarice, the one providing her a place, the one who's kind of funding her, he is evil. Like, he is a real bastard.
Yeah. When they met, when the prequel, when they met, I was, because halfway through this, up to this, just up to that point, my thought was, she's got to meet him at some time.
Yeah.
And when she comes out and she's, destitute and everything else, and then he pulls up, I was like, oh, well, that's it's a perfect time to go with this story. And I was just like, that's good.
I almost wrote a prequel all about Avarice. Like, he was going to be the subject of the prequel, but it was between him and the creator, and I thought her story was much more interesting to me. Like, I may eventually go back and write a short story about Avarice and how he became the way he was, because it's also interesting to me. But I guess, like, in book form, like as a full-length book, the creator had so much more story to tell.
Yeah, because you would have to go from his story to, was it Anya's?
Yeah.
You would have to pick up where she finds, or when he finds her. So that story could be really long or really short.
Yeah, it could be the prequel to the prequel.
Right, there you go. And you just kind of go, well, he gets to a point where he's driving down the road and he sees her, and she's like, get in and let's go.
I could do a Star Wars thing where I have the main series and then 3 prequels. Then all these offshoots.
Yeah, Crash. Sorry, I keep mentioning him, but once you get invested in certain things just keep ringing through your head like Tommy does. I'm totally into music. I mean, I'll listen to almost anything. I listen to music at work as long as it's stuff that I can listen to on my phone. And Tommy had kind of a ring to, his situation and, just listening to music in general. So I appreciate that. And then,
Well, it's funny. Speaking of Tommy's music, what I almost did, it was this idea that I was kicking around
I
was,
was going to ask you about that too.
sure. I'll go ahead.
Music. Where's Tommy's music?
Oh yeah, I was gonna actually put music out there. Like I had this idea I was kicking around of actually getting a band together to actually make the music. Because I wrote all the lyrics, like I have everything fleshed out. Like his band in my mind is very real, but I gotta actually find performative people who would actually create that music and actually make it palpable to the masses, or at least the fan base.
The
music is out
I
there.
know. I have an ex-boss who's might be into him. He played keyboards. He did silly stuff. So I could reach out to him, see if he's willing to play or anything.
That'd be cool.
Other than that, I don't have anybody that's maybe I do. I know a couple people that play guitar. They're nuts though.
All guitarists are.
So I could probably reach out to him as well. I don't know. I'm sure you'll figure it out.
At some point, yeah.
There you go.
It's coming. It'll happen at some point.
Yeah, when I read that, I was like, oh, excited. I was like, cool. We're going to hear what Tommy had to say.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this has been a pleasure. This is something that I didn't think I was going to ever do, but I want to reach out to other people as well. And I think that this was a fun interview. And like I said earlier, you can use this to show that someone is vested in you, in your, I am a part of your Patreon. I'll just get that out. I have all your books. So, I mean, I'm not just someone who just said, hey, hey, by the way, I enjoy what you've written and stuff like that. I don't say invest in interest, but I have an interest in what you're doing.
Well, I appreciate that, man. It really means a lot to me.
I've never had. I wasn't, when you get invested in a series of books, I'll bring up Jim Butcher again, but once you get into certain storylines and you get to that point, and then you just like, oh, these are really good, and then all of a sudden it's like 2 years, 3 years later, you're like, oh, now I have to go back and remember all of the characters.
Mm-hmm.
Or I have 3 series of books and I have the Kindle or whatever. I caught myself the other day just flipping through the second one and trying to remember things, or looking at the third one and going, oh my goodness, yeah. Well, we'll read that later. But yeah, I've read all 3. Really enjoyed all 3, and from a writer standpoint, I think you did very well. From a movie standpoint, I don't want to burst your bubbles or anything like that. I don't think so.
Movie wise,
if you were to make, I don't think these would be really tough to make into a movie.
I think so too. I think it'd be kind of a cool series though. Like if you're gonna make like a TV show out of it, it'd be kind of an interesting concept.
If you could find a way to tone a lot of it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Either that or you're gonna have to go NR.
Yeah, it'd be like a good indie film, I think. Like never like a mainstream movie, but like if somebody in the indie world wanted to make it, I would definitely give them the rights. Be like, I would want to see that. I want to see it done.
You can talk to that guy from Carousel.
Yeah, see if he likes it.
Yeah, I mean, there was another guy. Yeah, I don't remember a lot of a lot of people that I talked to, but oh, did you enjoy the guitarist guy that was standing next to you?
Oh, he was really cool. I like talking to him.
Yeah, you can get him in the band.
Oh yeah,
he's at Steel City Con a lot.
Oh
He
yes,
has
yeah, the cons.
what's that?
I said I've seen him in a couple other cons. He's pretty.
Yeah,
He travels a lot for him.
yeah. I walked by him at one of the Steel City cons. I just walked by him briefly, and I kind of looked at him, and I just kept walking. And then when he showed up at Girls Fest, I was like, I know you. So yeah, I looked up his music. It's actually pretty good.
Yeah, I got him on my Spotify.
Yeah, that's cool. All right. I don't know if there's anything else we want to talk about. I mean, it's all up to you.
Oh, what any questions you got, man?
Um, Nothing I can think of. You said June 20th for the book?
Yeah, Where Dreams Are Entombed, grand finale.
Oh, final question. How did you come up with Where Dreams Are Entombed?
You mean the title?
Yeah.
Oh, it's based on a song lyric by the band Him. Their title song, Venus Doom. One of the lyrics is "Where dreams are entombed, my Venus Doom." And I was like, I like the sound of that. And the story kind of is about dreams and like having a dream of being a better person, having a dream of being a star, and those dreams will eventually entomb you and cause you nothing but pain if you chase them long enough and if you never give up. Because people always say never give up on your dream, but I think there are limits. Like if you're in your 60s and 70s, you've been trying it your whole life, it's going to kill you. Like maybe it's time to give it up.
Right.
In Los Angeles, that's what they tell you. If you're trying to make it in LA, they say, have a time frame. Like don't chase this your whole life. You end up destitute.
Wow. That's
It's
crazy.
harsh, but could be true for a lot of people. Like if you sacrifice everything about your life for a dream, all it's going to do is cause you pain, which is kind of what happens in the book. Like he's sacrificing everything about himself, his identity, his body, his soul. He's giving it all away for the dream.
Oh, I guess one last question. Where did the well come from?
The well is what I think of as the creative process. It's always in the back of my mind, like a muse kind of. So I think everybody has their own term for it. For Ember in book 2, it was the abstract, which is another idea of the well. I think they're both the same thing, just different ideas of. It's kind of where you go to get your ideas, to kind of be in your mind, to get the work out there. We all have a creative well within us.
When it showed up, I was like, this is so cool.
Thank you.
It's another voice. And I was like, now they're pulling from this, and you're just like, I got it. It was cool.
Thanks, man.
And yeah. Sorry, I had a thought and it just went away. But yeah, when the well shows up, I was like, this is cool. So,
Oh, thank you.
well, I'm looking forward to the next book.
Well, thank you, man. Yeah, I'll be
I
out.
will. So, and once that happens, I'll possibly order. I'm gonna see if I can't get the second book because you're gonna be it's gonna be taken off of Kindle shortly, right?
No, it'll still be on. They're all still going to be on Kindle, but they won't be on Kindle Unlimited, so you won't be able to get them for free on Kindle anymore.
I know there's a couple authors that are a couple authors that I read and they're taking their books off, and I'm just like disappointed.
Yeah, they're
Because
always
one of them,
Kindle.
yeah, one of them stopped on a cliffhanger and he hasn't written anything since, and I'm like, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
But other than that, well, I think I've wasted enough of your time.
That wasn't a waste at all, man. This is a pleasure. I really enjoyed this.
We'll have to do this again, when you get your books out or something new.
Absolutely.
So tell us where we can find you.
You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok, pretty much all social media. Right now, my newest is patreon.com/ChaseWillAuthor. And then you can find me on Substack, my monthly newsletter at substack.com/ChaseWillAuthor. And I'm always active on these sites, especially Patreon right now, because I'm trying to put more content on there. So if you sign up, you're getting some bang for your buck.
Oh yeah, I read the short story.
Oh, did you like it?
You're warped, man. You are very warped. Very warped.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I was like, I kept reading and I kept reading, and then I came up to what things switch a little bit, and then I'm like, kept reading and kept reading, and I was like, got to the end, and I went, oh shit.
Yeah, it's
And I
kind
was like, yeah, it was like, no.
of.
So,
Well, I'm glad it
yeah,
had an effect on you.
it did. I mean, a lot of things. It's kind of like one of those little roller coaster or those. I don't know. The story was like it went from one direction to another to another to another, and then you're just like, what did I just read?
That's
I
awesome.
mean, yeah, when they introduce the creature, and then you go, oh, that's kind of interesting, and then you go to where the cables are, and then you go to the end, and you go, oh shit. Just
That's a real mind fuck.
it was. It was. Yeah, I was like, if you ever need your brain washed or something like that, yeah, this definitely did the trick.
And that story called Eve is actually free for everybody who visit my Patreon page. It's actually free if you're a free member. You can check it out. So if you're tentative about joining, you want to get kind of a taste of what you'll get by signing up. This is for you. You can check it out.
Cool. All right. I do have an audio version of this, and then we do have the video version of this. So once we stop, it's going to take a while. I can send it either tonight or tomorrow. So
Okay.
I'll just make sure that it runs perfectly well, and then send it off to you.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, I mean, having met you at Gross Fest and then finding you, I'm not stalking you or anything, I promise. But being able to talk to you about talking about the books and and other things, it's been a cool experience. I'll text you about this, but a friend of mine and I were talking last night, and this night might be down your alleyway. We were talking about something, and I came up with a concept or something called the Wheel of Disfortune, or no, the Wheel of Misfortune. That's what it was. And
Kind
I
of like a
kept,
pig on Wheel of Fortune.
yeah, instead of the Wheel of Fortune, it's a Wheel of Misfortune.
I like that.
So if you want to use it, use it. I don't know what we were talking about. I guess we were talking about books or talking about shows or something. And then it just popped in my head, and I was like, interesting thought.
Yeah.
And I was trying to like formulate something in front of it, how you would get there. And it's the same trope of, oh, in the near future, it's like that's what I was listening to in my head. It's like in the near future. It's like you've done the near future a million zillion times.
Yeah.
So, it's a million zillion times in a game show atmosphere or whatever, but it's something.
Yeah, I could use that. Fun.
I get those every once in a while of, oh, this is a great idea. Yeah. I'll let it go. But there you go. I'll add to your silliness.
Nice, man.
All right. I'm gonna go grab something to eat or drink, or I don't know, or go find a cat or something. I don't know. But it's been a pleasure. It's been an honor to do this, and I was thankful that you said yes. And if you would have said no, I would have said that's fine.
Well,
I had a fight getting this thing to work because my webcam that I ordered is broken, and I have two other webcams, but I can't find them.
Oh, damn. Oh, it sucks when we lose a webcam.
Yeah, I think my room eats things. But that's a tale for a different day.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I appreciate your time. You have a great night. And
You too, man.
we'll see you.
I'll talk to you next time. Bye, everybody.
Yep, I'll see you on Facebook. All right,
Bye.
take care.
You too.